Well, here's some thoughts I had to get us going, okay, in terms of leaving money on the table. For example, what about going back to past clients? Because past clients are 80% more likely to buy again. And one thing I did in the past was have a welcome back offer. And they already know who you are. And you don't go back to sell them, okay, even though you hope that might be the outcome. You go back to re-establish with them, has the problem that you worked with them on, or the solution or the desire or whatever it was, has it worked for them properly? And if so, would they be prepared to share with you what's happened as a result of that? So you just have a conversation with them. So another one that worked well for me was having a pick my brain hour. And what I used to do is this. This was in the early days of Skype rather than Zoom. I used to have a session, and it was $19 for 60 minutes. Okay, wasn't much, right? $19. And in those days, John, they could actually pay me by PayPal because I could use PayPal in those days, right? And they'd pay by PayPal, and I'd run a Skype session for people where they could ask me anything they wanted within 60 minutes. Okay. And during that 60 minutes, I would give everything I possibly could. In fact, I found I was giving a lot more value than $19 worth, that's for sure. And that worked for me. Now, on average, I got around about 6 or 7 people, but that's $100 anyway, right? Every week to do that. So that's good cash flow. And it was pretty simple, and it didn't require too much. And you could do it on Zoom anyway, right? Another one was if you have a checklist or a framework or a process or a roadmap or a blueprint or something that works, then it's an asset for you. Why don't you sell it? Have a think about that. If you've got a process that works for you, why don't you package it up and sell it? And I was watching Gabby about a month ago, and I'm not sure how it went, Gabby, I'll come back to you on this, but you offered to do a mini audit, if I saw correctly. And the idea basically, you could do the free audit for them in the hope that they would then pay you to get it fixed, what you found the problems were. Is that basically what you were doing?
I can't remember. I've done a few things. But
Okay.
I know at one time oh, you know what I think it was? I think it was a free mind map that I do. Maybe the mind
Yeah.
map. Is that what you're talking about? Maybe.
I don't know. Well, what I'm getting at conceptually, if you offer to do a free mini audit of something,
Uh-huh.
maybe of their health, Kristine, maybe of their circumstances in terms of where they are right now in their divorce, Tina, okay, whatever it may be, or maybe from a social media perspective, then you do a free mini audit with them, and the idea is to surprise them and give them so much value for free, but at the same time disturb them, thinking, "Holy dooly! I never realised that was an issue that could lead to getting a paid fix for them." And in your case, John, you could simply take the roadmap and show them the 5 steps. You could do that. Anyway, food for thought. I'll shut up.
The roadmap and the free program works quite well. And I know a couple other coaches that did, ask the expert, whatever you want to call it, and they attract a lot of people. And Peter, I sent you this and you know it. Jay Abraham, who's created billions and billions of dollars, he does a hot seat where he goes through and he solves people's problems. Now, he just did one and he gave a 3 hour tape. He did it for 6 hours. He normally charges $25,000 for one of these hot seats. And he
Mm.
did it for 6 businesses at no cost. And the whole concept was he's looking for business, obviously. So this system that Peter's talking about really does work. And when you figure the top marketers in the world do it, why don't we?
Yeah. There's one other thing you could do, and I use this a lot, and I think I should do more of it, and that is to offer a done for you implementation 60 minutes. It's where, for example, I used to do this to help people write their about pages for social media like LinkedIn or Facebook in those days, right? And the idea was where we'd work together for 60 minutes and I would deliver it to you live online via Zoom, and it would cost you $97. You pay up front, okay? And if you didn't like what you got, then I'd refund you at the end of the hour. But that was a pretty simple way, and you could do that, Gabby. You could do that easily, right? Where you work with them and you deliver. The key is to deliver live to them. They're working with you, okay? It's done with you, not done for you, done with you. So they're paying for the privilege of you providing their solution live, and they can talk through with you as you go, and you cooperate and you collaborate and you build together what they truly want. And by the way, the opportunities that brings up for other businesses is pretty darn good as well. Anyway, food for thought.
Thank you.
Gina, just as Peter was talking, I was thinking about you for your life coaching for the students. That could be a good way for you to do something like that.
Yeah. So while Peter was talking, there's a bunch of stuff that in Local Business Rising we're working on. So since you have seen the platform understanding, we're changing the $500 part. We're talking about, what we're wanting to make sure that we're giving them what they need, not doing it for them. Because in our case, so many people, like you guys know, they hire you to do it for them and just expect to make money on it, and they don't know what to do. So if for some reason you can't be there, then the whole project breaks down. So basically it's your project, not their project, right? So we're wanting to make sure that we give them enough information and tools to use on their own while we do certain projects for them on the sidelines, specifically give them their or not lead magnets, but their leads, give them their however many leads. And so we're looking at how much value they get for their amount from the $300 package to the $500 package. There needs to be like another like $1,000 worth of stuff they get at that level. So it feels like they're getting their values worth, why they'll choose that $500 package versus the $300 package. So we were talking about the systems, which this is something that's fairly new to me in the last 3 years, is systems. And so you're talking about what you're talking about, Peter. And so Tony Robbins has his systems built out. And so Tony Robbins could sell his coaching program to somebody else, and they get to keep the Tony Robbins name, which is why people will go. And it's Tony Robbins systems. You're talking Jay Abraham. We've got Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar's family is still using his systems and helping people. So putting together a project that your coaching works out of, it's A, B, C, just like the roadmap, and having that system together is the very best way to streamline the business, and where the money comes in, you've got your funnels, everything's all built into there. So in that, the work that I'm doing with the Catalasso Group in Minnesota, what I'm hoping to do with that program is to get Lisa, the owner, to get me enough well-trained that I can come over here to South Carolina and I can open up that same program here with the state of South Carolina. So, and that's, byproducts of the coaching that I do. So just the systems is what I'm getting out of the whole conversation.
Talking about your systems, you talked earlier about the lessons you learned from Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things I found is when you can tie it in with something that the person's interested in, it's easier for them to relate to, because now they got something to go back to.
A visual. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why when you and I first started talking, I kept going back to martial arts, because of your
Yeah.
understanding of that. So when you
I
put your systems, together, put it together so that find out what these kids are interested in and tie it back to that. And it'll be far more effective. And it'll works for any person. Like if I was talking to Kristine, I'd talk about music. When Gab and
Mhm.
I talk about websites and dealing with people. So it's something that they're interested in. That's what
Make
makes
it
it very powerful.
yes. And I try to do that. I'm not as good at it as what you are on my divorce clients. Now, when I'm working with kids, because I've done that probably as much or more than anything I've ever done in teaching my martial arts. It we have that martial arts connection already, so that's where I make that connection. And I use a lot of that. When I'm working in my posts, sometimes I'll make a connection to sports, football, baseball, or something to so that the analogy is there. So in that, but making the connection. And I just did one of Local Business Rising's first lessons, and it was on this part right here where we want to have connections with, it's a relationship marketing aspect where it's not about you and what you can do for them, but or how good you are. It's about them and how you can help them, but it may not be being their client. So it's about giving them something, another referral partner, but making the connection like with taekwondo and softball or something to that effect. So I agree.
The
Excellent.
point I was getting at, Tina, was that the thing that I always had problems with was done for you. Whenever I tried that approach, it cost me. It cost me dearly.
That's where we're
Unless you can actually allocate that to other people to do it for you, then the done for you thing is dead before it starts. Done with you is a completely different kettle of fish, right?
Yep. Totally agree. That's
That was the
where
point I
we're
was.
at in Local Business Rising right now.
Yeah.
Gab, why don't you share some of the stuff that's been working for you lately?
Did you say my name? Me?
Yeah, I said,
Oh, okay.
why don't you why don't you share some of the stuff that you found has been working for you lately?
Yeah, so I think the big thing that you guys all said is the social emotional reciprocity thing. So for me, I like to revert things back to myself a lot when I'm talking. It's not that like I'm selfish or something. It's just I personally like I always, and a lot of people do this. They feel really good about their business. They feel really good about the things that they're working on. And it's just an easier thing to talk about like the things that are of value to you. But I'm learning right now that people respond a lot better when the value is in it for them, right? So John has kind of like explained a lot to me, and I've been kind of working on this, but more so reflecting it back on the other person. So like you don't have to change your whole discussion, but I think that making it so that the other person can be engaged in a way is really, really helpful. And I've also been doing the free mind map thing. So basically, what the mind map that I offer is, it's like I basically get together with somebody, excuse me, in a Zoom meet or a Google meet, and I have like a trademarked map of some sort. And basically, when they meet with me, we go over just like their business, their purpose, and we try to kind of like expand upon the purpose and how it pertains to the web design. So I think that's a big branch of that because it's really forming like some sort of like connection. It wasn't like I built it for that, but that's really what's happened. And I think that doing that makes it a lot easier to work with people because they are able to see the value in what you're offering. So,
I always remember WIIFM because, as you've heard me say a lot of times, they don't give a rat's ass about me and you. What they want to know is what's in it for them. And their big thing is when they come to you, it's can you solve my problem? They want to know if they could trust you. They don't have to know you or like you, but they have to trust you before they'll ever do business with you. So the whole concept again is make it about them, because who's the most important person in their life? Them.
Yeah.
So when you make it about them, their business and what they get out of it, that's when they say, wow, you know, Kristine, Gab, Tina, Peter, they really care about me. They don't give a damn about them. What they do is they care about me. And people, you've heard me say, don't buy when they understand you. They buy when they feel understood. So make that person feel like you understand them, maybe even better than they understand themselves. Get to their real problem, because that's what they want to solve. We all know that when you start talking to somebody, they'll come up with a surface level problem. And what so many businesses do, they'll solve the surface level problem, or they'll say, I can do that. And you get all done that presentation, and then you hear, I'll think about it or I'll call you. The reason you get that is you didn't get to the real truth, the real problem. That's the main thing. And this is what Peter's talking about. When you get to their real problem, you can solve that problem for them. That's when they say, wow, I want to do business with Kristine, Gab, Tina, Peter, me. It doesn't matter. When you get to the real problem, that's when they want to hire you. Kristine, what are your thoughts?
No, what you've said, it makes total sense.
You know, when you relate music, for example, how do you use that in your business?
How do I use it? Well,
Yeah.
I have original inspirational songs that reinforce some of the messages in my wellness presentations. So it could be a mindset thing, or it could be I am what I eat.
No. Now, that's a good point. How would that relate to somebody? You know, that I am what I eat. How would that relate to a business person?
How productive are you? How well do you think? How well do you concentrate? Do you get stressed a lot? Because that will indicate the level of your wellness, your physical and mental wellness. And what you eat and how you sleep all contribute to how you feel today and how you perform.
So when you're talking about eating, do you go into more detail about, you know, if it's all junk food and what have you, you're going to suffer? Or
Well,
how do you do that?
people, quite often, people who are very busy will eat on the run. They'll pick up junk food because it's quick and it doesn't have the nutritional value. So what they're doing is they're robbing their body of nutrition that it needs to function at its best. So if you want to think at your best and perform at your best, make the right decisions, you need the right food, you need to choose the right food, and you need to give your body the right circumstances so it can actually digest and uptake the nutrients. Because there are various things like alcohol, smoking, all that kind of stuff that chew up valuable vitamins and minerals, and it robs your body of the nutrients because it interferes with that absorption.
You were talking about sleep. You know, what happens? What would you suggest if a person say they wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and all that's on their mind is the next day's problems?
Yeah,
How?
there are a number of strategies they can use that I can provide them to help them, well, to put things to rest in their mind so they can go back to sleep. Or that they do that before they even go to sleep. And then that way they don't wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning.
No, that's interesting, you know, because a lot of people, as we're all well aware with today's stresses, you know, their sleep habits suck, their eating habits suck, you know, and that's
Yes,
giving them
they
credit.
do. Mm.
So, you know, what would you recommend? You know, is this where you use your songs to help?
It'll depend. If I was to do a presentation on it, yes, I might back it up with a song. And I might back it up with something like, about their mindset. So I've got a song about their mindset because their mindset is going to determine their choices on how they live their life, how they eat, and so on. So it just depends on the circumstances as to how I could give them actually a blueprint. I could sell them a blueprint and say, this is what you do. It's a checklist. This is what you can do. And I could sell that to them. Simple. Or I could do it with them, as Peter said. And I can then also refer them to the songs that I've recorded and say, listen to this. Listen to these 2 songs or these 3 songs every day. Because listening to music, if the words are angry, it's going to make you angry. If you listen to words that are uplifting and empowering, you are going to be uplifted and empowered. So the what you eat is not just what goes in your mouth, it's also what goes in your ears and your eyes and who you hang out with. It's what goes into you, what your whole body eats and your mind eats. So yeah, there could be a whole bunch of things that I can advise people on strategy wise, and to listen to my songs for reinforcement of the right, when I'm not there to actually be their conscience, they're listening to my songs that are reinforcing my messages.
Would you say your songs could be meditative?
Not exactly. They're more, they got messages that they will take hold of if they see it as helping them. Because when people are in a state of need, they've got their radar out. They're looking for something that's going to help them. And so if there's a message in one of my songs that's going to help them, they'll grab onto that and they'll take it on board and they make the change, which is more powerful than me standing there going, nah, 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 nah. Which is why I wrote these songs, because there are messages that helps people and they do the changing themselves.
No, that one thing, people have to change for their reasons, not yours or mine
Well,
or
that's
anybody
right.
else's.
And they want to change. And when they hear something that's going to help them, they'll change. And just because I tell them, they're not going to change.
No.
And I wouldn't tell them. I could coach them, and they still have to do the changing themselves. But when they hear the message in a song, music's quite powerful. You know what I mean? And that can have more effect, positive effect, than just my words alone.
It's interesting because they talk about the third eye or the pineal and some gland in your mind, and that's all triggered by music or by sound. So,
Yeah, and I've got different music to suit different messages, to suit different songs, different tempos, different rhythms, different instruments, totally different styles. I've written songs in 12 different genres, so it has to suit the message.
and that is excellent because the person has to accept the message. Just because they hear us talking doesn't mean they accept it.
No,
So you
and
have to
quite
get,
often it just bounces off them. They're not really listening.
yeah.
Whereas when they hear music is more, they let it in more.
The other part you just mentioned too about them bouncing off, that all depends on how we come across when we're talking to people.
But it also depends on their state of mind as well.
Yep.
They could be distracted and they're not really listening.
And
So,
that also goes for us. We
well,
can
yes,
be
you can try and
distracted.
draw well, yeah, I guess. But you can try and draw that person's attention back to the here and now and stop worrying about the past or the future. Come back here. with me right here. Yeah, and I think music does that to them, or it transports them to a safe place where they can take that message in. You know what I mean? It's like when you're with somebody else, people can have um, preconceived ideas about relationships and people telling them what to do, or even if you're not telling them what to do, that's just their preconception about it. And that can set their state of mind and whether or not they're really tuned in or they want to tune in. And when they're troubled, they're usually distracted and all over the place anyway. But when they listen to a piece of music, it helps them to relax and they can hear the message then better. Music's
Excellent.
quite powerful in like that.
Excellent. I was one of those people growing up that if you were telling me what to do, I did the opposite. And I'd go out of my
Yep.
way a lot of times to do the opposite. So I can relate to what you were saying, and I'm sure a lot of people can. You know,
People don't really want to be told, looking for answers, but they don't necessarily want to be told. It's more powerful if they work it out themselves, which is how I like to work. I help them connect the dots. That's what I do. That's how I prefer to work.
and that's a very valid point for everybody to follow, because, like you said, nobody wants to be told. If we come to the conclusion by ourselves, it's a great idea. You can, the whole deal. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. My remark to that is give them a salt lick. That way they're thirsty and they will drink. But
Yeah.
the whole concept is it has to be that person's own idea. We can direct
That's
it,
right. Yeah.
but it has to be their thought. And this comes back to what this is all about is everybody's leaving a lot of money on the table. We got to be able to bend over and pick more of it up.
Well,
And
I've
Tina,
just, this has been really very valuable because I've just thought about, well, I can do this, I can do that. I'm just thinking about all those things I can actually do, and I don't have to be there all the time. I can just sell those things to them.
The biggest thing that I have found where people are leaving money on the table is the fact that we live in a world where there are so many distractions, right? So
Yes.
many distractions. We're all as busy as heck.
Mm.
But are we busy doing the right thing? That's one thing. But more important than
Yeah.
that, more important is time is our greatest issue. All of us, right?
Mm.
And I find most people are leaving money on the table because the conversation they're having with potential clients is not working. Right? It's not
Oh
working.
yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that.
there's
The other
you just
the other,
go ahead, Kristine.
I was just going to say that the other area in which you can leave money on the table is, if somebody gives you a referral or I don't know, you speak to somebody and you've got their number and you put it on your desk and things get put on top of it and it sits there and you haven't actually followed through on it. That's money on the table. That's literally money on the table. Um, and we can do that for, you get distracted and a bit busy doing something else and you forget about that lead because it's a lead. So yeah, there are lots of different ways we can, leave money on the table. And I've been guilty of those things as well. I'm sure we all
Would,
have at some point.
would both of you ladies agree that, when we're having a conversation, it's about being present with that person, not trying to lead them down a path, but being present with that person to find out what their real problem is
Yeah, yeah.
without offering any solutions or any ideas of how they can improve it. Just
Mm-hmm.
find out what that real problem is. Tina, I'm sure you find that when you're talking
Find
to
out when that
somebody
what?
and they're stressed about a divorce or a possible divorce. I froze there for a sec. So just when you're
Mm.
talking with these stressed people, what's your philosophy of listing, or do you offer advice going through?
So when they come to me, they're talking really super fast and really super loud. And so when I first start talking with them, I'm kind of fast and pretty loud, and I let them talk. And then as they start talking, I start bringing my voice level down and I slow my talking down so I can get them to mimic me and slow down. And by now, I've already heard their biggest problem. And so then I explain what and how I work, specifically how you pay for an attorney and how my fees are so different from an attorney's. And my whole thing with them is to be present, to let them know I truly care, because that is why I'm here. Yes, I need to make money, and I'm not going to do this for free because I have to pay my bills just like you do, but I am truly here specifically for that person, and I want them to feel that as the communication continues in the short, 20 to 40-minute call.
Now, let me say this. I used to teach and I used to do this regularly. When I was having a conversation with Kristine or Tina or John or whoever it might have been as a potential client, the purpose of the conversation, I made it very clear that I wanted to find out what was the biggest problems you were facing, right? And I have realized that is absolutely the wrong way to do it because it's presumptuous,
Mhm.
because people think, why is he asking me these questions? What's the pitch going to be? All these things. But you need to know what their problems are before you can help them. So what you have to do is work out how to find out what their problems are without directly asking them. That's the challenge we've got.
Because quite often people don't even know what their problem really is, especially if you're talking about coaching, because
I
it can
agree,
be.
Kristine, but I'm just forewarning. Please be careful. If you go in and start asking people, tell me about the problems you've got with your wellness, your sleep patterns, your diet, or whatever it is, your exercise. If you start doing that, people will get defensive. That's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah, no, you got to tread carefully. It's not like I want to probe or interrogate them.
Well, it's a very
But
difficult thing to do. You've got to find out what that problem is without
mm,
actually asking them. That's an
mm.
interesting challenge you've got. Now, it may not be quite the same in your case, Tina. I don't know. I'm not sure, Tina. I mean, when they get to you, they're probably so emotionally charged, they'll tell you anything, right? But
Well,
you're,
yes, but they have to tell me what their problem is in that case because that's why they've called me. They have an issue that they need to solve. So whether it is the real issue, which usually it's not, but
Mhm.
this is the problem they see, and that's the problem they need to convey to me. So then I can explain exactly what I can do to help them with what they perceive as their problem. And then we come back, later on, once they've hired me, then we come back in and I find the real problem and I work from the real problem standpoint. And the real problem is generally the viewpoint and how they're handling the communication, listening to the communication. It's always about communication in the end.
Yeah, the thing is with coaching, and like a person who's got a problem, and they come to you and they want to fix that problem. It's not the problem. The problem is their pattern of thinking, and they're stuck in it. And so you got to you got to let them talk to tell you how they see it. And as they're explaining it, you can see that they have a one-track mind and that there are a whole other bunch of ways to look at that problem. And they want to do the blame and shame thing. So in that case, it's kind of easier to guide that person. With wellness, it's a little different because I can't just they don't have all the answers like they do with coaching someone who's got a problem. It's their pattern of thinking, and there's a way to change that pattern of thinking so they can tap into their internal resources and they make the changes to their life. Whereas with wellness, people don't have those answers naturally in them. I've got to tell them some stuff. So there's a different way of helping people, you know, depending on how you're going, or what they're actually come for.
My point was this. Tina, you said this word, and so did you, Kristine. You said, when people come to me, they have a problem, right? And that is completely, there's no problem with that. And you, sorry about the pun, you need to find out what the problem is. But what I'm getting at is, if you are reaching out to other people and asking what their problem is, that's a completely different situation. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's not how I would approach those people. If I was talking to somebody new, I would be suggesting that I might ask questions of how's your productivity, and are you happy with the performance of all your people? But do you think you would like more productivity, and would you like less absenteeism, and would you like whatever, you know? It would be a totally different conversation.
Well, they're all yes answers, right?
Well, depends. Yeah, I mean, I'd phrase it in a way that they would have to explain to me, not just yes or no.
Mm.
But yeah, that's a different kettle of fish again.
Yeah, my point about presumption was that. I mean, I appreciate where you're coming from, Tina and Kristine. When people are reaching out to you because they have a problem, there's no presumption involved at all. But if you were reaching out to other people and seeking to ask them about their problem, many people are doing that. And I used to train people to do that, and I was wrong to do that. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
It's more like, how can I help you, and what brought you here today, or that sort of thing. If they've approached you,
No, what brought you here today? They didn't approach you. Approached them. That's the
well,
point.
no, I mean, if they approached me, that's what I might say to them. Yeah. So, but if I approach them, that's a different.
Inbound versus outbound is two different things. That's all I'm saying.
They're quite different ways of speaking to people.
Yeah.
It's I'd probably just it's mainly really just having a conversation initially with because quite often you are going to be talking to the secretary or the receptionist or somebody, and so you can ask various types of questions from them to get to the person you need to speak to.
Can you hear me? Am I breaking up now?
No, you're okay.
We'll see you
Okay.
guys
Bye.
tomorrow.
Bye for now.
Ciao.
Bye for
Bye,
now.
Tina.